Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
And greetings to you, music lovers, thrill seekers, conversationalists, and the totally confused. All across the fruited plain, we're here to unpack it all, to unwind it all, to make the complex understandable. There's no real complexity out there unless you believe what the drive-by media is telling you, which is what the Democrat Party wants them to tell you. But we are here each and every day to sort it out, and happily so. Here is the telephone number if you want to appear on the program. It's 800-282-2882. And if you want to send an email, lrushbo@eibnet.us. Donald Trump was totally correct and well within his rights, and in fact was obligated to fire Sally Yates, the acting attorney general at the Department of Justice. She should not have been there in the first place, and it's not the fault of the Senate for not confirming Sessions already. And it's not the fault of anybody but Donald Trump. Donald Trump is singularly responsible for this woman being there. She should have been let go on day one with every Obama appointee. When are we going to learn? They do not believe in the kind of civility that we believe in. George Bush holding over a bunch of Clinton people to try to smooth the waters after the Florida recount. No go, didn't matter. The left is simply a bunch of mean-spirited extremist bullies who are not interested in cooperating, working together, being civil, or any of that. Sally Yates and every other Obama appointee should have been gone within 30 minutes of Trump taking the oath of office. That is his fault for not doing so. I don't know why he didn't do so, but I have a theory. I know that Donald Trump knows he faces opposition, but how many times have I repeated over the course of this entire campaign, as I have tried to make people understand Donald Trump? The first thing I've told everybody, he's not ideological. When he sees Chuck Schumer, he doesn't see a liberal extremist and what that means. He just sees another New York guy who disagrees with him about things, but who maybe they can find some common ground somewhere for some reason over some method. But he doesn't see Schumer for what he really is. He doesn't see any of it because he's not ideological. And he's going to have to get up to speed on it. It's not enough to know that he faces opposition. I'm sure he knows that. I'm sure his eyes are being opened each and every day. I'm sure he's seeing a side of these people that he used to think was his friends. But until he is able to get up to speed and understand that he is fighting liberalism, socialism, extremism, bordering on near communism, he's not going to understand what he's up against. Now, don't misunderstand. I'm not calling him a wallflower, and I'm not saying that he's weak. He knows he faces opposition. But it is crucial to understand the kind of opposition it is. The only way Sally Yates can be explained is through liberalism. She said not a word when Obama was engaging in all of his illegal executive orders. She didn't pipe up. She didn't have any moral code that made her stand up and oppose Obama and his violation of the sacred statutes. She was purely political in what she did, in claiming that the DOJ was not going to defend the Trump administration policy, something that people may not know, as our education system begins to fail people decades ago. In the separation of powers, the executive branch has one boss, and it's the president, and everybody in the executive branch works for him. Sally Yates does not have a boss. Her immediate boss would be the attorney general, but she was acting attorney general because they're not confirming Sessions yet because the Democrats are dragging their feet on purpose because they are liberals. They're lying about every aspect of their opposition to every Trump nominee. If you want to put them on the spot, if you want to call them out on this, you've got to be able to call them out as liberals, not just a bunch of people delaying because they're playing politics. They're not playing politics. They're playing liberal obstruction, which is designed to transform this country away from the way it was founded. It is serious. And until these people in the administration understand it, these kinds of things are going to continue to happen. Now, you might be saying, well, I mean, he's got all these advisors, don't they understand? I don't, folks, look, I want to withdraw a little bit about what I said about the Republicans yesterday in service of this same point that I am making. I said yesterday that the big choke point that Trump faces as he goes forward and attempts to implement his agenda is the Republicans. And I said the Republicans are going to be the problem because they are afraid of all these protests and they are afraid of the media and they don't want to be tagged the way Trump is being tagged. And they will do anything they can to avoid that. They're famous, as you know, for saying we want to work with the Democrats across the aisle. I can shake hands. We can cooperate, show government works, and all that kind of stuff. There's another factor to this that I have mentioned on prior occasions, but I forgot to throw it in there yesterday. And that is never forget the money in this. Republican donors are the same as Democrat donors, and many of these high-powered, big-time donors don't like Trump either. And so the Republican Party also has a decision to make, members of the House and Senate, leadership and rank and file, to whom are they going to show fealty, Trump or their donors? It's not. I wanted to withdraw the bit that they're afraid. Not changing my mind about that, but there's other motivations for why they would also oppose Trump, and that is they're money masters, the donors. As you know, why would the Republican Party be for comprehensive immigration reform? Because their donors are. Why would the Democrat Party and Republican Party be inseparable on so many issues that in the old days Republicans would be in stark contrast opposition to them? Money donors, money makers. And it's a factor that I failed to mention yesterday. But until Trump or somebody, I know Reince Priebus is up there as the chief of staff, and there's Bannon in there. New York Times has an editorial today that Bannon's actually the president and Trump doesn't know what's going on. And Bannon's calling the shots and Trump's just combing his hair. Well, they're paranoid about it, and they categorize Bannon as this alt-right, populist extremist and so forth. As I said, I never heard of Bannon, and I don't mean this to be an insult. Please don't misunderstand. It's my problem, actually. I never heard of Bannon until the campaign had already gotten underway. But I'm a loner, and I'm a recluse, and I don't hang around network with people, so it's explained in that way. The point is, I don't know how many of these people understand who they're really up against. It's not just that they have opposition. It's the kind of opposition. And you all know this because you've been students and listeners here for years. Until you understand the kind of opposition left-wing liberal opposition is, you're not going to be successful in dealing with it. And you can be successful in dealing with it. We can nuke it. But Yates should never have been there. She was violating the law by refusing to defend it. She works for Donald Trump. She doesn't work for her own moral code. She doesn't work for her own interpretation of the law. She works for the President of the United States. She's no heroine. That the left wants to appropriate her and use her as a hero is instructive as it is. More detail on this as the program unfolds. NBC Nightly News yesterday. Lester Holt actually went out to the Statue of Liberty. Somebody had to show him the directions, and he got out there. And he started practically crying over the Trump travel ban and the Trump immigration reform plans and this whole executive order, and talking about how this is not what the Statue of Liberty... Ladies and gentlemen, the Statue of Liberty has nothing to do with immigration. The Statue of Liberty was not created with immigration in mind. That poem by Emma Lazarus that was added later that does make it look like it's a message to immigrants was added as a fundraiser to help build a pedestal for the damn thing. It has nothing to do with immigration, in truth, in reality. But the way things have been taught, everybody thinks that the Statue of Liberty was built to welcome all of the people of the world to the United States. And it wasn't. It's called the Statue of Liberty, not the Statue of Immigration. And yet the Democrats are out there, Madeleine Albright, crying tears and saying the Statue of Liberty is crying tears. Statue of Liberty, not crying tears. The Statue of Liberty is a statue that has nothing to do with immigration. Also, another meme that's out there today is that this was a firing poor Sally Yates was a reenactment of the Saturday Night Massacre when Richard Nixon got rid of the Attorney General. That's not what happened. Richard Nixon did not fire the Attorney General, and nobody else did either. The Attorney General quit. Richard Nixon wanted the independent prosecutor fired. His name was Archibald Cox. Archibald Cox was investigating Watergate and wanted Nixon's tapes. And Nixon said, "You're not supposed to be investigating me. Investigate the other people." And Cox said, "No, you're part of the investigation." So Nixon said, "Well, you're gone." But Nixon couldn't fire him, so he called the AG. The AG refused to fire him and resigned. Then they called the assistant AG, Ruckelshaus, and they said, "You fire Cox." Ruckelshaus resigned and refused to. So they called the Solicitor General, a man by the name of Robert Bork. Robert Bork agreed to execute the president's order and fired Archibald Cox, the independent counsel. And then, of course, when Bork was nominated to sit on the Supreme Court, that little act, unknown to many, was held against him in his own confirmation hearings. There was no Saturday Night Massacre in the firing of Paula Yates, or Sally Yates. Paula Yates was the babe that had the affair with, what is her name? What's his name? Petraeus. Is that right, Paula? Is that Paula Yates? Yeah, this is Sally Yates. I don't think they're related. Sally Yates, a well-known, Obama supporter. She shouldn't have been there, folks. She should not have been there. No Obama appointee should be anywhere in our bureaucracy, right? They all should have been summarily dispatched, and this is why. Finally, Tom Brady owes no one an explanation on who he supports politically. Yesterday, we had the USA Today story from a female columnist claiming Brady owes everybody an explanation now after Trump's executive order and so-called travel ban. She went on to say that Brady owes everybody and that's the only question Brady should be answering this week. Now, a journalism professor at Moorhead or Morehouse, I forget which one, college, has come out and said that Tom Brady is more un-American than Colin Kaepernick. That Brady, with a Make America Great hat in his locker and openly supporting Trump, is far more dangerous than Colin Kaepernick, burning the flag, supporting burning the flag, or taking a knee during the national anthem prior to NFL games. And that Brady needs to be called out summarily over this. Now this Morehouse, a journalism professor. There was also a story out of the Great Northwest that I didn't print it out. It was the Black Lives Matter protest where some deranged lunatic woman started saying it's time to start killing people. You heard about that? Black Lives Matter, I think it was Seattle or Portland or somewhere out there. And some woman started shouting, it's time to start killing people. She's a teacher. So we got this journalism professor at Morehouse, did you say, or Moorhead? Probably wishes he had Moorhead. He's at Morehouse University. I meant bigger head. He's a smarter guy, wanted a bigger brain. Don't confuse the meaning here. At any rate, this guy's teaching your kids. This guy's teaching so-called journalists. No wonder the industry's become corrupt. Because literally insane lunatics have been certified as professors and teachers and graduate assistants and who knows whatever. It's time to start killing people. At a Black Lives Matter protest, the woman happens to be a teacher, I heard. Let me take a brief time out. There's a whole lot more. We've got Trump's Supreme Court nomination named, and every network's doing a countdown. 7 hours, 41 minutes, 25 seconds, and counting. It doesn't matter who it is. Well, actually, it does. It does matter now. Because the Democrats have signaled that they're going to go nuclear on this. I'm going to explain what this means. I've found in talking with people that they don't know what the nuclear option means or is. They think they do, but they don't. Just like people think the Statue of Liberty is about immigration. It isn't. It never was about immigration. The left, that's another thing the left's appropriated. Statue of Liberty is about liberty and freedom, and it's a thanks to the United States for ensuring it around the world. It had nothing to do with immigration, but the left has appropriated it. Using that poem written by Emma Lazarus, which was a fundraising letter to pay for the pedestal for the darn thing. Anyway, so we just have much to sort out here, but the nuclear option being triggered means it doesn't matter who Trump nominates. The theory was that Trump could nominate initially somebody less than a full-fledged hardliner. Somebody that might be somewhat acceptable to moderates. Somebody about whom it could be said is not guaranteed to be doctrinaire conservative. In order to get the guy confirmed. Well, if the Democrats are going to go nuclear from the get-go, then you may as well nominate the full-fledged 1,000% conservative. Bring it on. Take off the gloves. Let's get the fists ready to go. And get this administration up to speed on just what liberalism is, who liberals are, and how to oppose them. Back after this. It happens every time I reveal what to me is common information. Check the email. And there were a bunch of people that were shocked to learn the Statue of Liberty wasn't about immigration. It shows you how successful left-wing created narratives have been. Let me tell you the truth about this, as abbreviated as I can with the lack of time I've got. The Statue of Liberty represents Libertas, Roman goddess of Libert. She bears a torch liberty, bears a torch and a tabula ansata. It's a tabula that evokes the law, upon which is inscribed the date of the American Declaration of Independence. That's what words are on the Statue of Liberty. Words that commemorate July 4th, 1776. A broken chain lies at the feet of the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty had absolutely nothing to do with immigration. So why do people think that it does? Well, there was a socialist poet. Are poets anything other than socialists and communists? Her name was Emma Lazarus. And her poem was called The New Colossus. And it included the lines, "Give me your tired, give me your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." That was not part of the creation of the Statue of Liberty. It was not delivered with the Statue of Liberty. It came later. The poem written by Emma Lazarus was written to help raise money for the statue's pedestal. We had to build the pedestal, which is also a room underneath the statue. A bronze tablet bearing the Emma Lazarus poem was only put inside the pedestal in 1903. And yet, there's Lester Holt out there on NBC holding out the Statue of Liberty as a beacon to immigrants, and as though that's what it was intended to be, fighting against Trump's executive order of the weekend. But it had nothing to do with immigration. Zilch. Greetings and welcome back. Al Rushbaugh on the cutting edge, executing assigned host duties flawlessly, zero mistakes. I don't want to make too big a deal about this, but I'm a stickler for reality and detail, and I hate liberal rewrites of things because it's lies. And it's designed to create emotions in people that cause actions which are not helpful to the country. And that's essentially what liberalism has done, is feed off of and promote emotions over thought and fact. Lester Holt last night, NBC Nightly News. Behind me, the Statue of Liberty, which for nearly 130 years has symbolized the welcome arms of a country of immigrants, is how he opened the program. The NBC Nightly News. However, he said, but tonight, she also stands as a symbolic flashpoint in a country in the midst of soul-searching over the limits of its generosity in an age of international terrorism. It's total BS. Folks, the Statue of Liberty, further details given to America by the French. You know, even now when I tell people that, I run into people that didn't know that. It was donated by the French as a tribute to liberty and freedom and independence in 1886. It was originally intended to be delivered to celebrate the centennial of the Declaration, the American Revolution. It was supposed to arrive in 1776 or 1876, but it didn't make it. It was 10 years late, or 8 years late, depending on how you look at it. It was not until 1903 that they decided they needed to build the pedestal. They needed money for it, and they commissioned that poet, Emma Lazarus, to write what she wrote. And that line, of course, is, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. And that's all it's taken. That was not part of the gift. The statue was not intended to recognize immigration. It was intended to recognize liberty and freedom. And you think, well, if they're intertwined, don't be misled. Here, Madeleine Albright, the former Secretary of State during the Clinton years, who stood by Bill Clinton during all of his womanizing, during all of his misogyny, during all of his reprobate behavior. Here's Madeleine Albright standing by the guy. She was on CNN this morning. Chris Cuomo, who probably doesn't know anything I just told you about the Statue of Liberty, said, you've got the Statue of Liberty on your lapel this morning. What is the concern about the ban that you have, Madam Albright?
Every part of it, Chris, because what it is, in many ways, it's anti-American and what this country stands for. It is, we are a country that has been created and populated by people from other countries. And so the Statue of Liberty's message is, in fact, one of open arms and welcoming people. And I do think that there are tears in the eyes of the statue at the moment.
No, the statue doesn't cry. The statue is a statue. They're bronze, doesn't cry. There aren't any tears coming from the eyes of the Statue of Liberty because there aren't any eyes. And the Statue of Liberty is not welcoming immigrants. What it represents is the beacon of liberty and freedom. It doesn't say, if you're from a war-torn area, come on in. We have laws that deal with that. The Statue of Liberty does not grant anybody entry into the United States of America. The Statue of Liberty does not say, you want in? This is the way. Come right over here to Ellis Island and we'll send you through there. It's not what it means. Now, I imagine some of you are saying, Rush, did you get a little overboard? No, folks. It may sound like I'm going a little overboard, but I'm a stickler for truth and fact here, and this is all being used to work what is already deranged lunacy on the left. It's fanning the flames of this stuff by furthering the misinformation and the lies that people are getting to keep that emotional flame supposedly burning in the minds and hearts of these leftists, who in truth are miserably unhappy. Let me grab Jessica in Naperville, Illinois. Great to have you, Jessica. Welcome to the EIB Network. Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for talking with me.
Yes, ma'am.
First, I just want to say thank you so much. I'm in Illinois, and I'm a Republican millennial, so I feel pretty isolated these days, surrounded by all the liberals. So it's been really great to listen to your show. It's a relief. But anyway, my question is, I know that the liberals in the Senate are saying that they're going to put up a huge resistance to the cabinet picks and especially the Supreme Court pick. And I just wondered what they're hoping to accomplish with this and, like, how long can this really go on, you know? So.
Well, that last question is a good question. And your other question, what do they hope to accomplish? I think you know the answer to that. How would you, if roles are reversed here and I was asking you, Jessica, millennial babe in Naperville, Illinois, what they're hoping to accomplish, what do you think?
Well, it's kind of hard. I just feel like it's more bothersome. I don't see how they can actually keep him from picking someone. So I guess I'm not really
well,
sure.
Look, this works both ways. Let me explain it to you, Jessica. You might remember the name Merrick Garland. Let's start there, just to tick them off. When Justice Scalia passed away, created an opening in the U.S. Supreme Court, and this happened in Obama's final year as president. And so Obama wanted to pick the replacement. This is crucial. If he could get a liberal on the court, that would tilt the court already for a generation, give the liberals a 5-4 advantage. However, there was a rule of long-standing, not a rule, it was an understanding of long-standing that had been in place for many, many years, and that is that presidents do not actually get to foreclose a Supreme Court pick in the final year of their administration. The reason that rule exists is because the Democrats insisted on it during a prior Republican presidency. And it was Joe Biden who came up with this rule. It didn't exist anywhere. Biden just created it out of whole cloth and said that it made common sense and moral sense and legal sense that any nominee in the last year of a president's, because he's leaving, and we're in the middle of a campaign to replace him, and so that ought to be something the new president does. The Democrats started this whole business of the sitting president in his final year should not have his pick confirmed. So the Republicans let Merrick Garland sit there, no hearings, and the Democrats fumed, because that pick meant everything. And Obama supposedly chose Merrick Garland because he was a moderate, that he could possibly get some Republican votes, and he could actually get confirmed, rather than pick somebody who was a hardcore, extremist, lunatic leftist judge. But the Republicans held firm, and they did not move the nomination forward, Jessica. They were able to forestall it by refusing to have frequent sessions, by just refusing. I mean, the Senate was run by McConnell, and he just refused to bring it to the floor, and there was nothing the Democrats could do. So now it's payback time in one sense. So that's one thing going on here. But even without that, this would be happening. The Democrats would be obstructing because, and all these cabinet picks, because it's crucial. They hate Trump. They hate the fact that they lost. And the reason that they are delaying and the reason they are trying to stop all this is just to make trouble for Trump and to create circumstances like happened with Sally Yates. They do not want Trump to have his people in place. Now, it can't go on forever, but it's all part of the gamesmanship, one-upsmanship, the play for power. This is the establishment, Democrats running it, basically telling Trump, screw you. We don't care that you were elected. You don't get to, we're not going to hurry along for you. People said, well, Obama got 7 of his nominees in the first day after his inauguration. Democrats said, you're not Obama. You don't get that. You don't get that kind of respect. We don't think you should have been elected. We think the Russians stole the election. We think the Russians hacked us. We think you shouldn't have been elected. Everybody knows Hillary Clinton should have been elected. So that's their mindset. Then you get to the practical realities, Jessica. A lot of people want to blame the Republicans here because the Republicans have the majority in the Senate. And people think that the Republicans ought to be able to determine the agenda in the Senate. And when it's time to bring somebody to the vote, to the floor for a vote, that the Republicans decree it, and that happens. Except, Jessica, the thing that you have to know, that anybody has to know in understanding the Senate, is that 60 votes are needed for most things. The vast majority of things. 60 votes are needed, not a simple majority. The Republicans have a simple majority. They've got 52, 53, depending. But they've got at least a 52-seat versus 48 for the Democrats. Bernie Sanders in there as an independent, but he caucuses with the Democrats. And even in those instances, Jessica, where 60 votes are not needed, the minority has, because of Senate rules, the minority has lots of rights to force hearings. And the way they're bottling up the hearings, like they just announced today, that they're going to delay Mnuchin, who's Treasury, and Tom Price, Health and Human Services, because they claim that both men have lied to them in their confirmation hearings. And therefore, further investigation is needed. Further examination is needed. All they have to do is allege that these guys lied. That brings the process to a screeching halt while that is looked into with further interviews of the nominee providing even more data. There's not much Mitch McConnell could do to get these nominees appointed more quickly. I'm not making excuses, but I'm not going to, excuse me, I'm not going to blame McConnell for that which he doesn't have that much control over. Just because the Republicans run the Senate does not mean that they get to dictate what happens there. And the need for 60 votes, that's where the nuclear option comes in. And the Democrats nuking it, 60 votes is called a filibuster. And cloture is when you have a vote to see if you have 60 votes. And if you get 60 votes on any proposition, be it a confirmation or a piece of legislation, then you've reached cloture, and then you have the second vote to make it official. And right now, there aren't 60 votes for some of these nominees. Republicans, even if they stand unified, they need some Democrats to cross the aisle and vote. And that then befalls to Chuck U. Schumer to see just how unified he can keep his caucus. Now, it gets a little bit more complicated because of the next elections in 2018, the 2018 midterms. There are a lot of Democrat senators up for re-election, and a lot of them are from states that Donald Trump won. They're called red states. And those senators want to be reelected, and the people in those states elected Trump because they want Trump to govern. They want Trump to get his nominees. So Schumer is eventually, most of these people are going to get confirmed. But Schumer has to pay fealty to his base. He has to obstruct. He has to try to stop in order to keep fundraising coming in. And again, if he could deny all these people, he would. But the practical and political realities make that unlikely. But this one is not, per se, the Republican leadership's fault, or at least it's not their fault alone. Senate rules, the need for 60 votes, any number of things. I'm glad you called, Jessica. I'm a little long. I have to take a quick time out. Back in just a sec. When we get a good question on the phones, I will broom the show prep and I will go to the phone. So we got a good one here. And we have another, this is a, I don't know, millennial? Yeah, this would qualify as a millennial. Millennials are born in 1984 forward. So, and this is Nicole in Jacksonville, Florida. So she's 19. How you doing, Nicole? What's happening?
Yes, I'm doing fine. It's an honor to talk to you, Mr. Limbaugh. I've been trying to get to you for 2 weeks now. But I've been listening to you since I was 14 years old. And I'm a Democratic, but I voted for Trump. But I just wanted to get your insight on the travel ban, because what Trump is doing right now, he's just stopping so much crime from coming into the country and people trying to do harm to the country. And people just need to give him the chance and just
get
back on what.
This is, it's a great question because of the answer. And the answer to the question is, why aren't the Democrats giving Trump a chance? Why are they reacting this way? Honestly, I don't mean to sound trite, and I'm gonna back this up with explanation, Nicole. You will not understand this intellectually unless you understand liberalism. You won't understand this behavior. You might not like it. You might think the Democrats are crazy. You might think that's a bit over the top, but you won't really understand it until you understand liberalism and what its purpose is. And in this case, this is not a travel ban, folks. All this is a temporary attempt to further vet certain refugees from 6 countries and Syria, where the vast majority of terrorist activity has come from. It is an effort to keep America safe. It is also Trump fulfilling a campaign promise. His Homeland Security Director, I just got the audio soundbite, not enough time to play it. John Kelly, Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly, held a press conference today, and during the Q&A, he was asked, when did you learn specifically Trump would sign the executive order? And Kelly says 1.5 years ago during the campaign when he told me he was going to do it. I've known since I first met Trump that he was going to do this. This is not a travel ban. Everybody that was detained has been released. It's exactly what Trump said it was going to be, further vetting to keep America safe. In large part here, he's fulfilling a campaign promise. The left simply seizes an opportunity to recast this and recharacterize this as something that it's not, to portray Trump as a violator of human rights and civil rights, which is 2 areas the left thinks that they own. And it's an opportunity for protest and resistance, which has become their strategy just for the purpose of it. They don't even need specific reasons. The Supreme Court nomination tonight is going to launch another round of this, another wave of this, and it doesn't matter what Trump does, this, until they beat it back, this is going to keep happening. They don't want Trump to succeed. They don't want to give him a chance at all. And one more thing about the Statue of Liberty. It is not on Ellis Island. You'd be amazed the number of people who think Statue of Liberty is on Ellis Island. It is not. Are you surprised at that? It is not. Statue of Liberty is on its own island, baby. Got its own real estate, not on Ellis. Greetings, my friends, and you're tuned to Rush Limbaugh, the EIB network. I am America's real anchorman and doctor of democracy and America's truth detector, all combined into one harmless loveball, fuzzball package. It is a delight to be with you. Our telephone number, 800-282-2882, and the email address, lrushmo@eibnet.us. Would you like an illustration of what I mean by Donald Trump not being ideological and how it's a problem? He understands, he says, he has opposition. How could he not? I mean, I'm sure he knows that he's got opposition. Don't misunderstand me now. And I'm sure that he may have had his eyes opened about some of these, in his mind, they're Democrats. Liberal, conservative, that's not in his lexicon, folks. And I'm not offering this as criticism. It's a truth. It's something, if you want to understand Trump, then there's no better deconstructor of Trump and explainer of Trump who's not in the inner circle than me. All during the campaign, I did my best to explain to everybody, leftists, media, conservative Republicans, never Trumpers, who Trump is, why Trump was winning, who Trump supporters are. And the thing that I kept saying is he's not ideological. So he knows he's got opposition. He knows Democrats. And he's probably had his eyes opened here. I'm sure that over the course of his life, some of these people now calling him names, trying to destroy him, have been his friends. So his eyes are no doubt opened. I don't doubt that. But I don't think that look, you can't become ideological overnight. One of my great laments is that not enough Americans understand the ideological definitions of liberalism, don't really know what it means. They know what Democrats are, but liberalism, low information voters and others, it's an area of weakness, frankly, the Republican Party has engaged in by not going the full mile in identifying the opposition or the enemy or however you want to tag them. But it's crucial because I believe let me finish my statement. I believe if more people understood liberalism and knew it as I do, or even half as much as I do, that they would have even less influence than they do. Do you realize that of our entire population, the percentage that will openly call themselves liberal in poll after poll after poll is 25, 26%? And yet, the media and the Democrat Party working together make it look like everybody in this country is liberal, and there's just 5 or 10% oddball conservatives who aren't. The number of people who self-identify as conservatives in this country is 36%. And I think it would be higher, but many of them are afraid to because of what the pollster will think. Just like many people are afraid to tell pollsters the truth about what they really thought of Obama's presidency because of the racial component. 25% of the country admits to being liberal. That's a pretty small percentage when measured against what it is made to appear to be. I'll give you another closer-to-home example, the gay population. If you didn't know better, if all you had to go by was what's on primetime television or movies, you'd think at least half this country's gay, if not more. And a lot of millennials do. The true population percentage of gay individuals, according to gay groups, is 3.5%, and I think that's high. 3.5%. The percentage of the population is transgender is so small, it's an asterisk. But they are now being positioned as numerous as gays and lesbians are. And all of this is done to intimidate and silence any opposition to any of this. And believe me, when we're talking Democrat gays and lesbians, we're talking liberal politics. We're not talking lifestyle. We're talking liberal fundraising and donors. We're talking ideology. The politically active gay community is almost exclusively Democrat. And it isn't about lifestyle. It's about liberalism. And lifestyle is a subset of it. There are many gay people who are not devoted to left-wing liberal politics. But we are being made to believe that half the country is gay and transgender, and that they're all liberal Democrat, and that there's no politics to it is another thing that they try to convince us of. So liberalism is about lies and distortions, creating false impressions and buzz and PR and image, all for the purposes of intimidating and bullying and silencing opposition, which in this case is conservative Republicans. And if more people understood what liberalism is, like, look at Obama's presidency. Look at how many people didn't like Obamacare. But how many of them didn't like it because they understood the liberalism that made Obamacare what it is? I mean, it's one thing to oppose Obamacare because it costs too much. It's one thing to oppose Obamacare because you lost your doctor, you lost your health plan. It's one thing to oppose Obamacare because your taxes went up. But why did all of that happen? Liberalism is why that happened, and a belief that the government is better equipped to live your life for you than you are living it yourself. Because they want the power over you to dictate to you how to live. Because they simply want the power. Because they are a minority. They can't win that power at the ballot box unless they create a bunch of illusions. And the first illusion they create is how many of them there are. And they own the institutions necessary to create and sustain this illusion. The media, Hollywood, pop culture. That's pretty much, if you own those three, then you own image control and image making. And then when you control that, you can then characterize your opponents as bigots, homophobes, Transphobic is a new term that's entering the lexicon now. Transphobic. You're automatically transphobic if you're a Republican conservative. It means you're afraid of transgenders. Homophobia means you're afraid of homosexuals. So, the reason that I come here every day and am with ontological certitude about what I believe is because I understand liberalism. I understand it better than many of them do. I know them better than they are willing to admit who they are themselves. And I'm extremely, profoundly confident. I know exactly what liberalism, that's why I'm so adept at predicting what they're going to do, because I know who they are and what they believe. I wish Trump were ideological. I wish he had more people. Pence is ideological. The vice president is very ideological. But I don't know if he's a warrior ideologue or just a knowledgeable ideologue. I would think of myself as a warrior ideologue. I'm on the battlefield waging war against it every day here in my own mind. But Trump is not. He knows he has opposition. If you do not realize your opposition is liberal, you'll never realize that you can't compromise with it. If you think your opposition is opposing you for other reasons, then you'll always believe there's a common ground you can reach. And you will try to. And in the process, dealing with liberals, there isn't any common ground. We do not, especially now, folks, the divide is greater than I've ever seen it in my life. There is no common ground. There is very little. Culturally, socially, we don't even agree that America's great, for crying out loud. They don't even think that. They think America is the problem in the world. We don't believe that. We believe America is the solution. We believe and love America. They don't. And it descends from there. So, how does this manifest itself? Well, in this news story from thehill.com. Ready? Trump will enforce LGBTQ workplace protections. The White House said early today that President Trump will continue to enforce an Obama-era executive order protecting the rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community in the workplace. Statement from the press secretary's office said President Donald Trump is determined to protect the rights of all Americans, including the LGBT community. President Trump continues to be respectful and supportive of LGBTQ rights, just as he was throughout the election. As your president, I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens from the violence and oppression of a hateful foreign ideology, he said as he accepted the GOP nomination. Okay, so what does all this mean? Well, let's go to a statement from the Human Rights Campaign, which is a gay rights, it's a liberal organization. That's the point of what Trump is doing here is agreeing with a liberal interpretation of biological differences and cultural differences, and he's agreeing with a liberal interpretation, and he's trying to codify and mollify opposition by doing this. It never works. It'll not gain him a single point. It won't calm down any of the protests. It will not silence them. They'll continue to say things that he doesn't really mean it. He was going to violate our rights, but our protests here scared him, and so he realized that he'd better not. He's never going to get credit for this. They're going to hate him and be as disrespectful of him after he continues these Obama regulations as they were before he announced he was going to. Because it's not about LGBTQ workplace protections. It's about liberalism. And all of these things that appear in public are actual camouflage and mask for what the real intent is. And that is undermining the distinct culture of Western civilization and redefining it and transforming it. Here's the statement from the Human Rights Campaign President Chad Griffin in a statement on Tuesday. LGBTQ refugees, immigrants, Muslims, and women are scared today, and with good reason. This is after Trump has agreed to continue the Obama-era protections. LGBTQ refugees, immigrants, Muslims, and women are scared today, and with good reason. Donald Trump has done nothing but undermine equality since he set foot in the White House, said Human Rights Campaign President Chad Griffin. Donald Trump has left the key question unanswered. Will he commit to opposing any executive actions that allow government employees, taxpayer-funded organizations, or even companies to discriminate? It's already against the law to discriminate. So even after authorizing the continuance of Obama's executive order, it didn't matter. And notice now that lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, that's what the Q is in this new amalgam, are equated to refugees and immigrants and Muslims and women. That's liberalism, making everybody the same, and everybody's the same victim of the same oppression. No distinctions drawn whatsoever. And all of them are scared. They're scared today, and they have good reason to be scared because Donald Trump, despite saying he's going to continue it, has done nothing but undermine equality since he set foot in the White House. Nothing of the sort. Griffin also criticized Vice President Pence and Trump's selection of Jeff Sessions for Attorney General, saying the president talks a big game on his support for LGBTQ people. Yet he has filled his cabinet with people who have literally spent their careers working to demonize us and limit our rights. This isn't about LGBTQ workplace protections, just like Planned Parenthood is not about Planned Parenthood. There is no parenthood if you go to Planned Parenthood, because you don't become a parent because your kid gets aborted. There is no parenthood if you set foot inside Planned Parenthood and they succeed with you, because your parent status will be interrupted with an abortion. But you will never know this if you don't understand the ideological left. You will not understand if you're Donald Trump and you issue this statement that you're going to continue to enforce Obama-era executive orders, protecting the rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer community, and after you do that, they come out and assault you as one of the greatest offenders of freedom. You're not going to understand. You just thought you bought peace. You just sued for peace. You just reached out. You just extended a hand of friendship. Common ground. Let's move forward together. And what they do, on it. And if you don't understand liberalism, you're not going to understand what happened. And you're not going to understand why there is no common ground with these people, because it isn't about lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, freedom, civil rights. It's about liberalism, which is about destroying Republicans and conservatism and capitalism and, in fact, freedom. And I will be back after this. Don't go away. So I checked the email during the break, and a very astute emailer said, wait a minute, Rush, I think Trump does get ideology. He's opposed to climate change. That's an excellent observation. Trump is opposed to climate change, but not because he understands it's a liberal idea. He's opposed to it on, well, let's review what he said. Trump has said that climate change is a hoax hatched by the Chi-Coms to make American businesses less competitive. Now, that's not what climate change is. That is one of the results. The origins of climate change are 1,000% in socialism, liberalism, communism. Militant environmentalism became the new home for displaced communists when the Soviet Union imploded, when the Berlin Wall fell. climate change, global warming, whatever, is the reason that I am so opposed to it. The reason that I have probably spent way too much time talking about it, because many of you probably, can you move on every time I bring it up, is because everything that is wrong with liberalism is encapsulated in climate change. Everything, every danger, every choke point, every potential item of destruction of everything we believe in is encapsulated in climate change. From the ideology to the lies to the funding to the lies and the distortions to the takeover of science by politicians and politics. Climate change. This is why I've always objected when our so-called scientists object to climate change with their own science, which attempts to debunk the science of the global. Theirs is not about science. Climate change has nothing to do with about science. It's fooled all kinds of millennials and all kinds of tech gurus and all kinds of other lazy people into believing climate change is about science and actually about climate. But it isn't. It's about the erosion of freedom. It's about the expansion of government. It's about the expansion of government control. It is about politicizing science and being able to take every aspect of science over and reconstruct it for political purposes to serve the agenda of the left, which in this country is the Democrat Party. There isn't any science. If science were the sole factor in climate change, it would have been debunked as a hoax already. We will be back. Well, looky here. Lo and behold, this is from USA Today. Headline, Boy Scouts of America to welcome transgender youngsters. See, just like that. This is not about the Boy Scouts welcoming transgender youngsters. This is about the leftist campaign to take over, infiltrate, and destroy as many traditions and institutions that trace to the traditions and founding of this country as they can. And it's premised on the fact that the Boy Scouts of America is a discriminatory bunch of bigots because they won't let in every boy, even the girls who think they're boys. And so they've been working on the Boy Scouts of America for, decades, and they wore them down. Or they just took over the leadership of the group. You would never understand this, though, if you don't understand liberalism. It's not a question of, you mean you don't approve? That's not, folks, it's not about this. This is the whole thing. This is just another bit of evidence of what the overall leftist agenda is. There's nothing safe. The Catholic Church, they're not going to stop until they reform that. You've seen this new show on HBO called The New Pope? The Young Pope, rather. Have you seen that? Well, if you're Catholic, I challenge you to watch this and just pass it off as some idle entertainment. Well, it's what's the actress? I can't think of the guy's name. It's about Lenny Bernardo from Queens who becomes Pope. And it turns out he doesn't believe in God and he's not a Catholic and he thinks that just everything that Catholics don't believe. It's not subtle. It's not subtle. And it's also not idle entertainment. It has a purpose. Just like HBO reviving that little movie or miniseries, whatever it was, on the Clarence Thomas, Anita Hill confirmation, so that millennials who weren't alive when that happened got the right leftist interpretation of what Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas was all about. Let's see, what else? How do you become pope if you don't? But you fool them. You lie to the That the whole point is you become a fake Catholic and become a fake priest, and you fool everybody by lying. You become a Bill Clinton. You become, I don't know. It's to demonstrate how easy it is to expose the Catholic Church as a bunch of frauds by how easily you can fake them out and become pope. By going from, Mel's Diner in Astoria to the Vatican. Before you're 40, by the way. And then he's telling other prelates, I don't believe in God. And I know you don't believe in God either. There isn't a God. Everybody knows there's not a God. We're running the biggest scam on earth. The young pope says to his Secretary of State. Oh, it's just a TV show, right? No, see, it's more than just a TV show. But look, I'm not getting into conspiracies. Things just happen to be falling my way today. We just no longer got through talking about how politics and liberalism is taking over science. Get this, anti-Trump March for Science maintains that racism, ableism, and native rights are now scientific issues. They are so excited by what happened with the Great Pusai March that they want to replicate it now, and there's going to be a scientists' march. There's going to be a great science march, just like the women, the feminazis marched. Well, I didn't know what ableism is either when I saw the headline. Let's find out together here. What do you think ableism is? Self-reliance? Being able to do it on your own? Well, let's see. Science enthusiasts are preparing to march on Washington to lambaste President Trump for supposedly embracing the antithesis of science. But these same enthusiasts consider ableism, transphobia, colonization, and native rights to be eminently important scientific issues. Organizers for the March for Science tweeted out Saturday that colonization, racism, immigration, native rights, sexism, ableism, queer, trans, intersex phobia, and economic justice are scientific issues, raising questions about how much the protest is about classical conceptions of science as opposed to social concerns from progressives who also happen to like science. This, by the way, is from the Daily Caller. I don't think these people have the slightest idea what science is. It's just the next thing to be politicized and taken over. But if you don't understand liberalism, you'll just think these people are a bunch of kooks. And it'll stop there. You think they're a bunch of weirdos, and you'll think, now you feel sorry for them. And you'll sit idly by, paying them very little mind as they go about being very effective with this. Because they are convincing young skulls full of mush that all of this gunk is real, like climate change and all of these other myths that they have created that have to be, like men and women are actually born different, is news to them. But like every other leftist demonstration, these protesters can't help but to expand in order to include the entire menu of complaints against Western civilization, which is what liberalism is about, is overturning Western civilization. And they co-opt all of these areas and politicize them. And yet, after they've taken over science, they then call liberalism science. Climate change, science. Climate change is not science. It has nothing to do with science. It's a hoax. It is all about leftist politics. Here's another story on the same. Nope, it's the same story. I printed it out twice, and it looks different. Now, on the other side of this, Trump is doing the right thing on it. Do not misunderstand me here. Breitbart has a story. Trump's climate plans just made the media's heads explode. Now, this is in the UK, and it's written by James Dellingpole, who is over there. It was great, a bit like that no-pressure video that the EnviroLoons made a few years ago, only better because this time the victims were not blameless schoolchildren, but grisly, puffed-up, righteously eco-Trump and Brexit-hating TV and newspaper environment correspondents, all of whom hate my guts. That's how the writer opens the story. Let me give you some pull quotes, because this is about Trump's opposition to climate change and how he's not going to further it. He's going to bring it to a screeching halt. Government research, funding, and all this. And the leftists are in a panic over this. They're trying to tell people the panic is the Earth might not survive. We might be able to inhabit the Earth because of Trump. It's not about that. It's about them being cut off from money. It's about them being denied power. One of the people that participated in all of this is Myron Ebell. Myron Ebell is head of the Trump administration's Environmental Protection Agency transition team. As you know, the Trump administration has announced they want to reduce the EPA by half. They want to get rid of something like 16,000 people that work there because all they do is create a bunch of regulations that hamper, that obstruct, and get in the way of the pursuit of liberty, happiness, and freedom. They do it. They're not elected. There's no way to get rid of them other than to fire them, like Trump plans to do. And the guy heading up the transition, as I say, is named Myron Ebell. He is, as this story says, cultured, fearsomely intelligent, and Cambridge educated. So he comes with a pedigree that the left can't discard. When the press accused Ebell of representing evil oil interests, this was at a seminar that was televised by media, he replied by noting the vast power and corruption of what he called the climate industrial complex, grant-grubbing scientists to regulation-hungry, rent-seeking businesses which feeds on the global warming scam. So to call these people, the leftists, the climate industrial complex, grant-grubbing scientists, what he means by that is you have a lot of so-called scientists who promote the concept of global warming, and they do it by supposedly producing scientific research. Well, they do that because they get government grants to do it. So it's their way they live. It's their salary. It's their standard of living. And they do it by having money given to them. And the only way they can ensure they get the grant money is to write whatever the grantors want written. And if the grantors want the myth that there is climate change going on, then these so-called scientists will compromise everything they believe and write whatever is needed in order to get the money. And this guy just accused them of it. Heads exploded. Get this, the left loves Elon Musk. You know who Elon Musk is? Tesla. They love the guy. I read my tech blogs. Elon Musk gets mentioned thousands of times a day. They idolize the guy. They love the guy. They want to know Elon Musk. They want to go to his house. They want to go to his parties. They want to be married to Elon Musk. They want to be given a free Tesla. They want anything to be just within 10 miles of Elon Musk would make their lives, okay? And here they are at the seminar. And someone brought him up. Someone mentioned the brilliant and the great battery technology that Elon Musk has created for his cars. And the head of the Trump transition team, the Environmental Protection Agency, said, I wonder how the largest recipient of federal taxpayer subsidies in the history of the world could be represented as any kind of role model. So here is the Trump transition team talking to a bunch of environmentalist wackos in the UK who idolize Elon Musk. And he just basically called Musk the largest recipient of federal taxpayer subsidies in the history of the world. And what would it be like? What kind of role model would he be if that were how he was known? He's not a billionaire. He's a millionaire recipient. This Trump transition guy talking. When asked about the Endangered Species Act, the Trump transition team director at the EPA said, to audible gasps of disgust and hatred, that he'd been trying to reform the Endangered Species Act for years because it didn't do much for endangered species, but it did an awful lot of damage to private property. It's not protecting species, but it's destroying the right to private property, and it's destroying the use of private property. Heads were exploding all over the place. Now, Trump's transition team guy obviously understands liberalism and knows their choke points and the pressure points. And he blew them to smithereens. It needs to happen in the United States next time. Back after this. Okay, back to the phones, and this is Mary in Graham, Washington. Mary, welcome. I'm glad you waited.
Thank you, Rush. I just want to say thank you so much for all you do promoting America and giving us hope and educating us each day. It's really appreciated.
Thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate it.
I just want to tell you, I am extremely upset at these protesters and these demonstrators. I'm a New Yorker. I almost lost 4 brothers that day. 3 of my brothers had the buildings tipped in any which way they wouldn't be here. My 4th brother was an airline steward that left 10 minutes earlier on his plane from Boston to L.A. They just didn't happen to pick his plane. I had cousins on the lower towers. I had extended family who was a firefighter that lost his life. And these protesters do not understand what it's like to be thousands of miles away. You're calling your family, trying to find out where everybody is. And they continue to protest and want people to just come into this country without any kind of extreme vetting is ridiculous. Those people in New York that had to deal with 9/11 that day, they were going to work. They did not plan to go to war. And those terrorists went to war that day with us.
Well, I hear everything you're saying. The protesters would tell you that they're not immune to the emotions of what you just described. They would tell you that Trump is identifying falsely as stigmatizing innocent people, accusing them because of their religion of being terrorists, and he's being a bigot and so forth. And if Trump will go after them, he'll come after the people protesting him. And they want people to be afraid of Trump. They're trying to gin up this fear that Trump is incompetent, he's a megalomaniac, that he's Hitler, that he's going to start rounding people up and putting them in camps and so forth, all to obstruct and stop Trump. It doesn't matter what Trump does, Mary. The specifics are irrelevant. They're going to resist anything that is, in their minds, the slightest bit controversial. It's all going to ramp up again starting tonight when he names his Supreme Court pick. And we're going to be here tomorrow going through the same rigmarole, trying to set the record straight about who the nominee is, how the nominee's not a racist, he's not a sexist, he's not a pig, he doesn't hate women, he's not anti-gay, he's not anti-tranny, he's not anti-whatever. It's going to be the same song and dance that have been going through for 28 years here in fighting these lame-ass people.
Well, for me, Rush, I know my brothers carry the memories to this day. And when 9/11 comes, they are not mentally in good shape that day.
I know. I have a friend who lost a son and still doesn't think that there has been an adequate response to it. Absolutely. Still doesn't think, he doesn't understand the coddling of the people from the religion that did this. He'll never understand it. I know exactly what you're saying. 100%.
It's extremely frustrating, Mush.
And the fact that we don't want it to happen again, and that all that's happening here, there have been other terror attacks during the Obama administration because there was lax vetting, and because Obama, here's the real deal on this. Most of these people protesting, to the extent that they even know what they're doing, and I mean that because most of them are just being paid, many of them naturally oppose Republicans, so that's all it takes. But these are organized protests. They are not spontaneous and organic. They're not representative of the majority of the country as they're made to look like. And the truth is that many of these people leading the protests actually think the United States deserves these kind of attacks because of how mean we have been to other people around the world, that we need to get a taste of our own medicine. That's what you need to understand about them, the ones that know what they're doing. And we will be back. Don't go away. Get this, public policy polling, that big lib polling group out of North Carolina. They asked Americans who they want to win the Super Bowl. Only 27% want the New England Patriots to win the Super Bowl. 53% are pulling for the Atlanta Falcons. And another story on Tom Brady and how he has no right to do anything now because of his support for Trump. You see, the Democrats had a rally Capitol Hill last night and the microphone didn't work. We have some audio of this coming up. Well, they eventually got it working. We've got audio. I'm told that we have audio of the microphone not working. It is a good question. How do we have the audio if the mic was working? Because our microphones are everywhere, in addition to theirs. Anyway, folks, greetings and welcome back. Great to have you. Rush Limbaugh serving humanity. How? By being here. And that is, behind that, the golden EIB microphone. Take a moment and call us if you want, 800-282-2882. Email address, rushmore@eibnet.com. Look, I have a lot left here that I want to try to cram into this hour, including your phone calls. Let me start with the Super Bowl stuff, because again, this is not even about Super Bowl. This is classic illustration of what liberalism is and how it takes over everything. Well, the first thing is about the Super Bowl, but it really isn't. It's a poll question on who do you like and who do you not like in a game. It's from public policy polling. Only 20% of respondents want the Patriots to win. 53% want the Falcons to win. A journalism professor, and by the way, the story tries to go on about how hated the Patriots are. You don't think that's an accident, do you? I mean, the Patriots, what are they known for this year? Not winning. They do that every year. What are the Patriots known for, Rachel? You tell me. What are the Patriots known for? Why are the Patriots in the news a lot besides football? Brady, Belichick, and the owner, Robert Kraft, support Trump. And they're going to have to pay. And the way they're going to have to pay is they're going to lose. The American people supposedly want the Patriots to lose because the American people supposedly hate Trump and anybody who likes Trump. And that would be Belichick, Brady, and Robert Kraft. And so you get a poll that shows 27% of the American people like the Patriots. And you're supposed to take away from that 27% of the people like the Patriots because only 27% of the people like Trump. Then here's the next story from our old buddies at Newsbusters, Brent Bozell and the boys. Professor claims Trump supporter Tom Brady more un-American than Colin Kaepernick. Oh, that's not even half of this. Wait till you hear the details. Who is more threatening? A professional athlete who disrespects the flag and our troops and supports the radical activism of Black Lives Matter and the ruthless dictatorship of Fidel Castro, or an athlete who wears a Trump hat? The answer depends on how sunk in lefty groupthink and reflexive America hatred one is. For example, David Dennis Jr., an adjunct journalism professor at Morehouse College, meaning he's teaching your kids how to come out and be members of the drive-by media. This is not some isolated, incidental wacko teaching at the University of East Overy. This is Morehouse College and a journalism professor who thinks Tom Brady's politics are far more un-American than Colin Kaepernick. He had a column that appears at the Huffing and Puffington Post, and he writes the allegiance of Brady to a president as oppressive and crass as Donald Trump reveals a major character flaw in Brady. In Dennis's world, Trump is recruiting Nazis, America is dominating people through subjugation, and foreigners are not smuggling drugs into and committing crimes in our nation. He goes on to write about the glories of Kaepernick, what a brave athlete he is, what a courageous athlete he is, what guts it takes to take a knee, what guts it takes not to celebrate the national anthem, what courage that is. That's real America. Tom Brady is just pathetic. This journalism professor writes that Brady's Trump endorsement has been largely ignored when, in fact, supporting Donald Trump as president is far more threatening to America than taking a knee during the national anthem. Here's a full quote. And Brady is almost being defensive and saying, I don't understand why this is a big deal. Brady wants to avoid talking about Trump. Well, wait a minute, man. We're all judged by the company we keep. Donald Trump has said some things and perhaps done some things that people find morally questionable. So if that's your guy, Brady, and if you have a hat in your locker room that says, Make America Great Again, and you're hanging out with him, Brady, then he's shouting you out. And you all are writing letters to him and that sort of thing. People want to say, that's your boy? Yeah, Brady and Belichick supposedly wrote Trump congratulatory letters after winning the presidency. It's almost a week until the Super Bowl, and this journalism professor, Dennis, is hoping the media will question Brady about his un-American beliefs and treat him like the media treated Colin. The media celebrated Colin Kaepernick. What are you talking about, treat him like they treated Kaepernick? Kaepernick was treated as a conquering hero by the drive-by media. Then the professor writes, then we'll really see how well Brady holds up under pressure. And it was just yesterday, USA Today had a column by a female sports writer columnist suggesting that Brady had a lot of things to explain. He has a lot of excuses to make. He's got a lot to apologize for. And he owes everybody an explanation, and he shouldn't get a single football question until he has satisfied everybody's curiosity about how in the hell he could support Trump. Another example, liberalism, how it operates, how it's taken over what you consider to be a mainstream tradition, sports writing. You know the sports drive-bys in many cases are more leftist extremists than the news compatriots, their counterparts. By the way, Super Bowl entertainment. Ready for this? The cast of Hamilton will sing America the Beautiful. Now, okay, I'm not either. Snerdley is proclaiming here he's not watching that crap. But no, that's not the question. Who decides this? The NFL decides this. Somebody, a committee. Why are they picking Hamilton? You think it's the anti-Trump Pence thing? You don't think that it's possible that the people at the NFL don't even know about that? They just think the whole country loves Hamilton because if it happens in New York, it's happening everywhere. Don't kid yourself. Snerdley is shouting at me that the NFL is very much well aware that the cast of Hamilton disrespected the vice president when he showed up for a performance on a Friday night. And that the NFL is choosing Hamilton to honor the fact that they disrespected the vice president. I don't know. Well, now, I was going to get to Lady Gaga. Look, I know where my sentences are going if you'd let me utter them. Okay? The first thing on Hamilton, I thought of it the way you did, the way you're thinking about it. But then I read the NFL, at least publicly, proclaims they want nothing to do with politics because they don't want to anger half the country. I think it is entirely possible that you're right. But I also think it's equally possible that they don't know a thing about that and instead have chosen Hamilton to sing the America the Beautiful because being in New York, Hamilton was the biggest thing on Broadway, meaning it was the biggest thing in America, when it isn't. It wasn't the biggest thing in the country. It was the biggest thing in New York. And I mean, everybody who saw it loved it. I'm not criticizing it or putting it down. What I'm saying is Hamilton is not America. It has not been seen by most Americans. The play, the musical, has not been available for most, but where it has been seen, primarily on the New York boards, it is considered the all-time best ever, greatest, except maybe for, I don't know, the vagina monologues. But you think they chose it specifically because this cast... Okay, then you have Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga is doing the halftime show. I read that Lady Gaga, as part of her show, wants to do it from the roof of Energy Stadium. And they're trying to figure out how to get her up on the roof and how to televise it and get her off the roof safely while she's singing and stuff. Now, the choice of Lady Gaga, also anti-Trump, Hamilton anti-Trump. The National Football League, supposedly the national pastime. So they have chosen two acts here who are well known to most Americans as anti the President of the United States. You might be right. Certainly, I don't know. I think what they ought to do, if you're right, go out there and have Kaepernick flip the coin. The opening coin toss, get Kaepernick out there to do that. And maybe instead of Bill O'Reilly interviewing the president, which is what happens, because it's Fox has the game and their top drawer gets to interview the president, have Michael Moore interview Belichick. And let's see what the audience is. Interesting headline, San Francisco, lowest percentage of kids in America. What might be the first reason that you would think would explain that? San Francisco, lowest percentage of kids in America. Go ahead, tell me. What do you... Well, you know what? This is a Breitbart story. And actually, it's not a Breitbart, it's a New York Times story. The New York Times doesn't mention that aspect of it. San Francisco, lowest percentage of kids in America. It's same-sex. Do you know what the gay population of San Francisco is? What do you think it is? No, it isn't. It's not 50. It's amazing how low it is. It would stun you. I think it's because everybody thinks the population of San Francisco is 50% or greater. I think it's 25, 30. But even at that, San Francisco, lowest percentage of kids in America, and you would attribute that, if you see that headline automatically, what do you expect? You got same-sex city there. How in the world? Well, let's see. The report by the New York Times indicates that only 13% of San Francisco's population is under 18. The combination of high rent and the distance of public schools from where people live has resulted in what can be regarded as a mass exodus of families with school-age kids to surrounding cities that are more affordable. So that's the reason, Mr. Stern. It's not that there's a lot of people there that don't have kids because they can't. It's because the schools are so bad and they're so far away that people have moved out of the city and to the suburbs and surrounding areas. The Times notes that San Francisco's invested millions in upgrading its parks, which was a waste of money because the homeless immediately took over. Before the tech boom and ensuing gentrification, San Francisco was bustling with kids. Approximately 90,000 students enrolled in the public school system in 1970. Now there were reportedly 53,000. Not a single word of the makeup of the sexual orientation of the city as a factor in the fact that there are fewer kids in San Francisco. Let's go to the audio. Supreme Court pick is tonight. CNN, I've got to get this out there. CNN is reporting that Trump has brought both of the likely nominees to Washington, Hardeman and Gorsuch. They're both being brought to Washington. There's only one of them going to be picked. This is a publicly televised choice ceremony tonight that Trump is conducting. Why would you bring both of them if you already know which one you're going to pick? Why would you bring both there? And are they going to be part of the public show or whatever Trump has planned? Is it? Why would who would the other guy apologize to? What do you mean, bring the other guy in to apologize? Oh, you mean you apologize to him publicly and in person? Trump apologizes to him, is what you said. Nah. Are they both going to be on stage and Trump's going to be behind them walking, eeny, meeny, miny? Which one is it going to be? Is it going to be that kind of a show? Are they both going to be there and Trump's going to do a show? He doesn't know which one yet. He's not going to make up his mind till he actually gets on stage with both these guys standing there or sitting there. Is he going to read off the ups and downs of both guys while they are standing there on camera? I really like Gorsuch here. He's this, but over here, Hardiman, let me tell you, Ben, you really stand out here. But Gorsuch, don't feel bad because I like you for other reasons. What's it going to be? I never heard of this. Why would you bring both of them in? Let's see. CNN says that Gorsuch is, according to is the choice. Increasing indications that Gorsuch will be. Now, Gorsuch of the two, just so you know, Gorsuch is the supposed rock-ribbed, dead straight, center, solid, no doubts about it, conservative. Hardiman is the guy, might be a nominee that is largely conservative, but might surprise you down the road. But Gorsuch, and see, the reason that this matters, again, if the Democrats have already announced that they're going to do everything they can to stop the nominee, if they weren't going to do that, then the first person that you would nominate would be the least contentious, which would be Hardiman in this case, for the simple reason it might be easier to get him confirmed. And once you get somebody confirmed, then the next one's supposedly become easier. But if they're going to announce, the Democrats, and they've done, if they're going to resist and they're going to go nuclear, if they're going to do everything they can to stop it, then you may as well go with the best you've got, or the one you really want. I don't mean to characterize either of these guys as lesser or greater, but Gorsuch, by reputation, is supposedly the most real deal conservative, and therefore the most hated and despised by the Democrats. So that's the guy. If they're going to go nuclear, then you go nuclear, and you throw your guy right at him, and you beat him back on this, and then after you beat him on this, every other nominee you get. That with decreasing opposition, that would be the theory. And we go back to the phones. Margate, New Jersey. This is Eric. I'm glad you waited, sir. Great to have you on the Rush Limbaugh program. Hi.
Hey, Rush. How you doing?
Very well, sir. Thank you.
I missed the Hutch this time of year. Ken Hutchinson. Listen, I called to make a prediction.
Okay.
If the president doesn't get out and remind the American people that Obama and the Democrats created ISIS with the void they left in the Middle East, the next time there's an attack here, they're going to blame what happened just this past weekend on President Trump.
I think Trump believes he's already done that. That was a staple of his campaign, that Obama and Hillary created ISIS by vacating Iraq prematurely. He may think he's covered at base. You think he needs to keep saying it?
Yeah, because the American people forget pretty fast. And they're great on the blame game.
Right. Well, I think you've got a point. In fact, I saw this speculated somewhere that, so here comes Trump with his executive order to ostensibly vet incoming illegals and refugees, and it's designed to make America safer. And then if there is a domestic terror attack, the left is going to blame this very thing for it by saying the terrorists got really mad when Trump tried to keep them out of the country. That's what they're going to say. They will say that. You're right. They will. That's hilarious on his face. They're going to blame Trump's executive order for this because it made the terrorists mad, and it made them even more committed to getting into the country and beating Trump's efforts to keep them out. And therefore, the next terror attack will be all Trump's fault. And the same people were those people exonerating Obama, had nothing to do with it. Obama's policies were irrelevant, say, the San Bernardino massacre, for example, or what. It's a good point that you have out there, Eric. And we have another obscene profit break, folks. Be right back. So during the break, I'm watching a little cable news for the first time today. I really haven't paid attention to it. And they're still talking about Sally Yates. That's such old news. And they're still debating whether or not Trump had the right to fire her. And Jay Sekulow is on. He got a question. Did she betray the Justice Department? Did she betray the Justice Department? She betrayed everything. She betrayed the executive branch. Her job is to execute the orders of the President of the United States. He is the lone boss of the executive branch. This is constitutional. It is not in her purview to choose which laws and executive orders that she's going to enforce and defend or not. She had no choice. Trump had no choice. She had to go. She should not have been there. Everybody's missing this. She should not have been there. Trump should have fired her and every other Obama appointee last Friday, or January 20th, when he was immaculated. They all have to go. Or you're going to get stuff like this. Because the Democrats are delaying the confirmation of all of Trump's cabinet picks, or the vast majority of them. Jeff Sessions, that vote's supposed to happen today in the committee, and it still hasn't gone to the whole Senate. That'll be a while. She had to go. Should have had a Trump person in that position from the moment Trump became president. Yeah, I dealt with this in the first hour, so I don't want to be redundant here. I was wrong on the gay population in San Francisco, and I was way high. Time magazine in 2015, quote, the Gallup survey, Gallup's poll of the 50 largest metro areas in the United States found that 6.2% of San Franciscans identify as LGBT. That's 2.6 percentage points higher than the national average. San Francisco, named the gay capital of the U.S. by Life magazine in 1964, has a long histoire of politically active LGBT communities. 6.2% in a survey where they asked people, which this is as close as you're going to get. I know you are. I knew you'd be stunned when you found out what the real... You're thinking it's 70%. You think Seattle close, right? Nope. Well, Atlanta, I don't know. But the national average is 4%. Something like that. Okay, what else do we have? Oh! 2 stories back to back. I've been waiting to do this. First story, USA Today, again. You know what GLAAD is? GLAAD. You know what that stands for? It's a gay and lesbian something or other against defamation. Gay and lesbian. Not only it's GLAAD, gay and lesbian anti-defamation. Anyway, they have awards. They give media awards for the most understanding, the most sympathetic, the most enlightened, whatever, media people understanding the plight of gay and lesbian Americans. And the latest GLAAD Media Awards, this is a USA Today headline, GLAAD Media Awards nominations show dearth of major films with gay content. Moonlight, the Golden Globe winning and Oscar-nominated coming-of-age film about a gay youth, has just one rival, Star Trek Beyond, in its category in the annual GLAAD Media Award nominations. Okay, what this means, for those of you in Rio Linda, is that the Gay-Lesbian Alliance, that's what it is, Gay-Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, something like that. They're angry because the movies in Hollywood have less and less gay content. And that means that Hollywood is screwing up. Means things are not going well in Hollywood, okay? Next story from Vanity Fair. Why Hollywood as we know it is already over. I don't know. I'm finding these two disparate things and putting them together. I enjoy it. Here's Nancy Pelosi unable to make her microphone work. That's a montage. This last night, they were actually outside the Supreme Court. The Democrats held a rally to protest Trump's executive order on immigration. And during her remarks, Pelosi had technical problems with her public address microphone. And the protesters couldn't hear her. Here is a montage of how it went.
Thank you very much for coming out. Is the sound working? Got it? The sound working? No. I can hear you. Can you hear us? Good evening, everyone. I'm very proud to stand with the members of the House Democratic Caucus. It's not on? Is somebody going to deal with this? Crack staff? Look at that moon. It's a new moon. Staff, sound people. Shall we sing This Land Is Your Land again until they get the sound working?
This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island.
It's just, folks, I'm telling you, microscopic of what's really happening to these people. The bottom line is the Democrat Party is imploding. The Democrat Party is being rejected. The Democrat Party is losing. Since 2010, they have lost over 1,000 seats. You've heard me say this. Donald Trump is the president. He is not slowing down. He's not backing down. He is not being deterred. He's marching forward. They can't stop him. The only thing they can do is protest and raise hell and try to make it look like they represent a majority of Americans. But they do not. The Democrats know it. They show up at the Supreme Court last night to protest everything Trump is doing, and the public address microphone doesn't work, and they're reduced to singing This Land Is Our Land, which nobody can hear anyway. Now, you might, well, how were we able to hear it? Well, there were other media people there, and their microphones were working, but the PA microphone wasn't working. And you could hear the Democrats, Steny Hoyer and others, very, very frustrated. And Pelosi, I'll guarantee you, by the way, that when that thing ended last night, some heads rolled. Because this made the Democrats look like laughing stocks last night, which they were. Mandy in Philadelphia, glad you waited. Great to have you next on the program. Hi.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I just wanted to start by saying I've been a longtime fan. I've been armed with the Limbaugh letters since the early 90s, and you've helped me to identify, avoid, and fight liberalism. So because you are able to explain and kind of get into the head of the president, I wanted your opinion on the timing of the immigration executive order, which I'm very much for, as far as doing it before his cabinet has been voted upon. And also, there's these reports that he didn't include all of his cabinet members, such as General Mattis, and what you make of all of that.
Well, I'm like you. I have to guess. There have been some questions answered about this by administration officials, but we're still left to fill in some of the blanks ourselves. I think one of the things here that is going on that to me, it's not a negative. Some people might interpret it as such, but I really think that Trump was intent on showing his supporters that he meant what he said and that he's not just idle chatter and wasn't going to wait around. And this is one of the major aspects of his campaign. I think there's a little marketing and PR in this. Not that it's not substantive, but I think he was hell-bent on doing this and getting it done quickly so that people realized he meant it and they could continue to have faith in him. I think that he has some advisors, because the cabinet's not fully in place, who took control of this and got it out as quickly as they could get it out without going through all of the necessary steps, just because they thought it was important to do. Maybe there's some turf wars going on, too, with people making marks there in the administration for what areas they control, and this was a demonstration of that. Whatever errors that were involved here, I think, are resulting from good intentions. I don't think it's the result of inexperienced people rushing to do something before they were ready to do it. But clearly the implementation could have been much, much better, and it will be as time goes by. The substance of this thing was fine. I appreciate the call, Mandy. I wish I had more time, but I don't. Okay, got the Supreme Court pick tonight. That'll largely dictate what happens tomorrow here, but there's going to be tons of other stuff, and no place better prepared and more equipped to explain it all to you than right here. We'll see you here tomorrow. Thank you, folks.